Welcome to the Diane McClay Show, empowering life through choice. Get ready to discover new perspectives, motivation, and balance through Diane's compassionate storytelling and insightful discussions. Whether you're feeling stuck and discouraged, or curious and looking for more possibilities, Diane has your back, and she's ready to take you on a journey of self-discovery and expansion. Choice is powerful, and so are you. The Diane McClay Show starts now.
Welcome in, everybody. Happy Friday. This is Transformation Talk Radio, and I'm your host, Diane McClay, on empowering your life through choice. Once again, thank you for making the choice to be with us today. We know you have a lot of other options, a lot of other podcasts, so it's always great when I know that we've got people out there that we can help and that we can provide good information to. I'm super, super excited, as I always am. I have amazing guests on today. My first guest is a friend of mine, and she and I have been working together behind the scenes on a couple of different projects. But Alicia Ayala is a corporate mom leader, but that's not what she was before this title. For the last 20 years, she's been a VP. The last 20 years, she's been in corporate technology world and was a rising star in that place. But she actually made the choice to give up a promotion and a VP spot in order to focus on, first of all, being a mom to her two girls, but really pursuing the passion of serving women who are in the corporate world, who are moms that are trying to find more time, more ease, and more balance so they can enjoy both parts of their lives. I'm super excited that she's here because we're going to talk today about choice. We're going to talk about getting the outcome you want and the outcome that you deserve. So with that, Alicia, thanks for joining us today. Man, it's been a while. Catch us up. What have you been up to?
It has been. Thank you so much for thinking of me and asking me to be on the show. I'm thrilled to be here. I've always enjoyed our conversations. So I was like, yes, when you asked me. So it has been a little while. And, the biggest thing that I've been working on since we last connected, I had some things going on in my personal life, which is why the project that we were working on together, I had to kind of step away from that. And to use your words, right, there was a choice that I had to make. There was a choice on, I've got my business, I've got my kids, and then we were working on this project. And so I was like, and I always talk about sometimes we have to say no to certain things in order to say yes to what's really important. And to align with our values. And for me, I had to say no to the project that we were working on so that I could focus, really on some things that were happening in my personal life. So I had to actually go to court with a family member in a very, hard way. I had to take that person to court. And in the end, I got the result that I wanted, which was amazing. And I'm feeling much more like I'm just a month out from having gone through that process with the court system. But anybody that has dealt with the court, how hard that whole process is. Just to get paperwork submitted, you're like, what? Just to, so I've been working on that, and also just, serving as many women as I can. So in the time that I wasn't working on, this family situation, I was really focused on being with my kids and enjoying the summer. And then also just continuing to create and try to just, put together different programs and opportunities to help corporate mom leaders. So that's really what I've been focusing on.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things in there I want to just kind of come back to. So the project that you and I are working on, I want to just do a little quick shout out. The Cornelia Stephanie Media Group has an app out there. It's still called the Cornelia Stephanie Media Group app that people can download from the Google Play Store, Apple Play Store. I stepped away for a little while because I'm actually in Denver right now, and I have been putting all my energy and time and extra whatever into helping my brother-in-law open up his business. So quick shout out to the Basketball Social House in Centennial, Colorado. They just got their occupancy certificate yesterday. So I also understand the concept of navigating bureaucracy to get what you want. I want to tag that and come back
Yeah.
to it. But what I also know is the thing I really want to highlight is that just because you and I stepped away from the app project and bringing that into the hands of people who really could have access to really strong leaders in our industry, really strong places that they can get information and personalized care. What was really beautiful, I've been watching the group from the outside, and a lot of new people actually stepped in and stepped up and they had the ability to apply their talents and their skills in a way that maybe if you and I had been there and we had been driving our part of the boat, maybe those people wouldn't have gotten in, maybe they would have, I don't know. But what's really beautiful is this project that you and I were working on for a while, actually got a chance to evolve and grow in our absence because of the strong women and the strong leadership that's happening in that. So just want to put a plug out to Cornelia. I know she's been doing a lot of really hard work, and she's got some great experts in her group now for self-care, self-help, and getting people over the hump to a lot of those hard spots in their life. So kudos to her. I want to tag back. You got the outcome you wanted, right? That's what I titled the show, getting the outcome you want and being happy with it. So now that you're on the other side of this personal issue, and you don't have to go into details, but I'm just curious if now that you're on the other side, can you look back and identify components that you put into place or that you learned to do along the way to get you the result you want? Because I think sometimes we just feel like we get stuck with whatever's given to us. Yeah. And then we don't always have the knowledge or the sense of empowerment to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and make a process what we need it to. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think in this particular situation, I mean, like, I just had so much faith that no matter what, it was going to work out the way that it needed to. And I just knew that going into it. Like, even if the outcome wasn't exactly, I believe that life is always giving us lessons. And I believe that, and there are so many times like a little bit of detail, but like my mother passed away last December. And so the moment she passed away, there was a guardianship that had to take place because my youngest sister is disabled. And so somebody had to take over guardianship. And so like, there were all these things I had to do. And so I had to have just unwavering faith that no matter what, it was going to work out. And also that no matter what happened, like there were lessons that were meant for me. And I just truly believed that no matter what happened, and I have to tell you, like, I went up against, like, they lost my paperwork. I had to call back and I was like, well, like crying, like, what? How can you lose paperwork? But that happens with paper, right? There's humans involved. And so like, there were just like multiple things that happened. It's not like this was an easy process, but I was just like, you know what? I'm going to learn through this. I have no idea why I meant to learn about this or how this is going to help me, but I know some way, somehow that this is meant for me. And I had to hold on to the faith that it was going to work out, faith that this is a lesson that I need. And I also just was really strong with, I had a vision and I knew like what needed, like at a higher level, like what needed to happen. And I was like, as long as every single week I am just like, that's what I'm doing. And knowing what my why was, right? I have a youngest sister who cannot advocate for herself. I have this younger sister who she can't show up like I am right now and verbalize things, right? So she needed me and it was bigger than me. And so having that vision and knowing what my why was, it was just like, this is going to work out. And obviously I had a lot of support, support from my husband, support from other, family. I also had, a certain amount of not so much support from other parts of my family as well. So there were a lot of dynamics, but I would say those were sort of the key components.
Yeah, so I'm just taking some notes here because, I like to recap for the audience. I'm pretty good at synthesizing. And on these shows, we have so much energy and so many good ideas that if someone is listening and driving and their mind is focused on hurrying up and getting home on their Friday afternoon, the first thing I want to call out is have faith, right? Whether you're a traditionally religious person and you have a church or a synagogue or another institution that you go to, or whether you are spiritually strong, but you're not associated with a membership, or even if just intuitively inside you have confidence. I think faith could equate to confidence as well. I think it's really important to always have that forward thinking vision, right? And you said that you always had a vision. So I want to call that out. So if people are going through life and they're trying to get something, and they get disappointed if they don't get it, the first thing as coaches, one of the things we say is your vision clear, right? Is it clear enough to you that you can articulate it to a random stranger and have them get it in 15 seconds in an elevator conversation, right? So one of the things, can you speak to, because I know that in your corporate world and your technology world, when you were putting product out, you and your team had to have a vision for what the product was going to do. Translate that for me now to what you do with corporate moms about helping them have the vision to have a balance of work, balance of family, and still still show up for themselves.
Yeah, so personal vision is something that is part of the program that I teach, because just like in a corporate world, you always have a strategy, right? The company always has a strategy for any technology product that goes out. You're right. Like, you have a vision, and part of what you're doing is you're selling that vision. And it's the same with you personally. And there's actually a guy by the name of Richard Biatsis. I'm probably butchering the name. But he actually, like, 30 years of research. And one of the number one things that he says that you need in order to bring about whatever it is you desire into the world is having a personal vision. Like, you know what this future looks like. You can see it, you know what it is. And you get really clear on it. And so this is one of the first things that I always teach, because in order for us to move forward with anything, you have to know what that personal vision is. And I'm always really surprised when I start meeting with different people and I ask them, like, what's your personal vision? So if you want balance, if you want to make a change, you want more happiness in your life, like, what does that look like? And there's like silence.
Yeah.
And what I often hear is, I haven't thought about it. You know, like, as moms, like a lot of us moms, especially like moms that are also leaders, which is why I love this space. We have all of these things that we're dealing with as far as, like, you know, all the things related to family and kids, you know, the things that we should be doing for ourselves, like scheduling our appointments. And we have all of the work stuff, right? And we want all of those things, but it's so much that coming up with a personal vision, again, I'm often met with, I have no idea. And so, like, going through this program that I teach, it allows you that time and space, but you don't need a coaching program. You could do it right now, which is, you know, what do you want for your life? What do you want? And I always have people look at the 6 pillars of your life. Like, what do you want in your career? What do you want for your, like, health and well-being? What do you want for financial, you know, your financial health? What do you want in your relationships? What do you want for emotionally, what is it that you need spiritually? I think I covered all of them. And have you look at each of those areas. Often you have certain ones that are doing really well, you know, and again, a lot of the women that I work with, they're high achieving. So, like, work-wise, career is going really, really well, but it's like the personal things, the health, like, those are the things that are sort of like taking a back seat. But it's coming up with, like, where are you now? And what do you want that to look like in the future? And really, like, getting clear.
Yeah. And the thing is, sometimes it's really hard to go from not having a clue to suddenly having it be outlined. And I personally, like, when I wrote papers in high school and college, I never wrote the outline until after I was done with the paper. That's, my brain doesn't work that way, right? I have to write, and then I have to reorganize my data. And then I have to, Alexis is popping in, so we'll bring her into the conversation. But I have to kind of put things down on paper first, and then reorganize and rearrange things, and then put it into a very linear thing. That's me. But one thing that I encourage people to do is just write down something, right? just write down something and then look at it and ask yourself, how do I feel? Does this make me feel good? Does this make me feel not good? Because if it doesn't make you feel good, hi, Alexis. If it doesn't make you feel good, then you can change it, and you have power to change it, right?
Yeah.
So let's do something real quick. Let me bring in my other friend, Alexis Moore-Eiting, and I'm so glad that she actually was able to join us. She's in New York City and just got off of work. So you either must have pushed a lot of people out of the way, or you were able to catch the bus right on time. So thank you for joining us, Alexis.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Let me just tell everybody who you are, and then we'll recap it again after the break. So Alexis is an assertive coach and founder of the Confidence Society based out of New York City. She's a voice coach, a self-defense instructor, and the author of 21 Strategies for Thriving at College. And she's passionate about empowering young women to create and maintain healthy relationships, body image, and enhancing self-exploration for safely maneuvering through college. And I think it's perfect that you're chiming in. Alicia Ayala is actually working with corporate women and moms to do essentially the same thing on two different sides of the conversation.
Very nice.
Right. So what we're talking about, Alexis, and just to recap, is we were talking about that Alicia actually had a personal challenge that she had to navigate. And we were just recapping some of the things that made her successful in getting the outcome that she wanted, which is what we titled today's show. So I figured we were just now that you're here on time, we'll just sort of have a three-way conversation. Everybody can kind of feel like they can jump in at any point in time. Is that good with you?
Yeah.
Okay,
great.
So we talked about having faith in the outcome, having a sense of knowledge about what you want to have happen. And if you don't know how to create that, that's why Alexis and Alicia are here today, is they can actually help you create that. Alicia mentioned having a support system around you. And I was going to tag into that just because you have a group of friends or just because you have a group of family members doesn't mean that everybody in that group gets to support you. And this is where choice comes in, is you get to choose who your support system is, because different people are going to be capable of providing you different things, and not everybody can give you everything all at once. Alicia, you're nodding your head. Does that make sense with your situation?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's so easy, sometimes to think, for example, your partner is going to be everything for you, and sometimes my husband is great at listening. He's great at a lot of things, but I can't expect him to be all of the things all of the time, because that's like expecting a lot. And so I think it's important to kind of know, based on your situation and whatever your challenges or your goal, how can you lean on certain people based on their strengths, right? And how they can best support you. They're just different people in your lives, in all of our lives, and they just serve different purposes. I think it's okay. And I think it's also just really healthy to acknowledge that and not expect them to be everything all the time. So I love that you said that, because I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. It took me so many years to figure that out.
So Alexis, translate this to young women going to college, where their support system has traditionally been their family, their immediate family, maybe their high school friends. And these young women maybe they're going across country to school, maybe they're going next door. But talk a little bit about your knowledge and your expertise about how we pick the support system we have as we transition from one part of our life to another.
Yeah. So I have an activity I call support bingo, which is basically like a 5x5 bingo chart of different people for different reasons. So find somebody who's a friend who can support you, who's going to be able to support you after hours, who's going to be able to support you and support your choices around drugs or alcohol, who are the people you want opinions about that, who feels safe to talk to, who are the people you talk to that you admire for relationship advice, that you think actually has wisdom that you want, who are the teachers that you feel safe talking to, connect with some advisors early on before you get in trouble, so that you can create a relationship with them. So you're not just coming to them in a state of panic about failing a class or, what have you. So building relationships before you get in trouble, and knowing who these people are beforehand, and that you just have a list that you can look at and be like, this is the person I want today.
I'm super stoked about your idea because I was just saying I'm a non-linear person. So this idea of having like 5 sets of bingo cards in front of me and like, different names are in different things, because what that also ties into me for what I teach is it's about creating options, right? So if I know that Alicia is literally my 2 a.m. in the morning friend, regardless of what time zone she's in, that's going to be on one bingo card. But what if she's busy with her kids, or what if she's sick? I need to have another person who's also equal to Alicia. I'd put Alexis on my bingo card as the 2 a.m. in the morning friend, right? Who's going to talk me off the ledge? Who's going to be there when I am not in my own strong, I don't mean right mind. I don't want to be detrimental towards people with mental health. But what I mean is like when I'm at my worst, when I can't think something through clearly because I'm stressed, because I'm anxious, because I'm worried, because I'm not getting the outcome I want, because things aren't happening how fast I want them to be, that's all going to impact me. I need people around me who can be like, hey, wait, let's slow down. And you forgot to breathe in the last 30 seconds. So I'm going to encourage you to do that. And then say, what's the most important thing that we have to deal with right this exact second, right? So having options and creating choices, I feel like it broadens this concept of empowerment for women, especially.
Yeah, so I just wanted to comment, Alexis, I love that. I love the active and like the proactiveness of that. And it's so interesting to me because I think at all these different phases in our lives as women, we need that bingo card. So like, I love this concept. I might have to ping you and come up with something similar, because what happens to women as they kind of grow out of the stage of like, okay, I've moved on, I'm in my career, I have the husband or partner, I've got kids or maybe no kids, dog, the house, suddenly we lose connection with people. And that bingo card is something that they still need, but they don't even know they need it because they think that at this point in my life, I should have things figured out. And so like, I just want to say thank you. Like that is such a beautiful, beautiful idea and just brilliant. So thank you.
Yeah. I just think it's really important to recognize that there are some friends who push you, right? There are some friends who like are up a couple steps in the ladder and they're like pulling you up. And they might not be the person who's going to go down into the trench and find you when you're there. Like you might also need the friend who's willing to sit with you and cry with you and just give you space versus the person who's like, get off of the couch, we're going out. Like that might not be the person you want that day. You might want the person who's like, what are we watching today? Like, well, are we wearing matching PJs today? Like they're different people. And you need them at different times in your life, and to just be able to acknowledge what their strengths are and how you two interact and what kind of support you can get from, because different people have different strengths that way, like you said.
Yeah. I just love it. Yeah. Like I'm the more direct person. So sometimes sympathy for me is not my strong suit. And so, like I'm the person that's going to motivate you to get off the couch, helping you feel sorry, but like those are valid. Like you should feel your emotions, but I'm not always great in that space. Sometimes I'm more like, let's get going. Let's figure it out. Let's move. I'm the driver.
Right. So you're probably not the person I'm going to call when my cat dies, but that's totally fine too. Right. But maybe that is the person I want like 24 hours later, where I'm like, no, and I think,
yes.
And maybe you're that you're that person for one particular person. There's also like those levels of friendship, and maybe like that person isn't the person you call when your cat died last year, but like when you broke up with someone later, they had become that person for you. Like, there's also acknowledging that shift in friendship, or someone is no longer that person you call.
Right.
They didn't pick up and they let you down, and you still value them. They're just not quite as safe anymore. And just being okay with that fluctuating friendship changes. I mean, that's another thing that I like to remind my young women, is that like friendships sometimes end, and they sometimes end abruptly, and you don't understand why. Sometimes you grow out of each other. Sometimes you have conflict. Sometimes someone gets a partner and they disappear. Maybe they come back, but just acknowledging that that hope that you find that best friend in college, your dorm mate, and then you're going to be friends forever is not a model that really happens all that often, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and
You're
again, I think that that's the same thing, like, again, and the later stages too. You think that you're going to have these same friends, but you're having kids at different times and you're doing different things and you have different career aspirations. And now suddenly your calendars are different. And suddenly you're like, how do I make friends now that I'm in the corporate world and I've got one child? It's just, yeah, you're right. Like, friends fluctuate, and it's good to know. I think that's another skill. Like, how do you make friends at various points in your life?
And I want to jump in here because this is kind of where it goes back to right when Alexis joined our conversation, we were talking about clearly stating your vision. So this comes back to, if you realize that you don't have that friend who can sit in the depths with you, as Alexis says, then maybe, you need to understand what you're looking for, right? Maybe it's somebody in a church group. Maybe it's somebody in a support group. Maybe we're not reinventing the wheel here. Everything we're talking about already exists in the world. We just have to remind ourselves that we have choice. And it takes some courage to go out and do something a little bit different and look for that support system that we need, regardless of what it is. Ask for help when we feel we need it, but being able to clearly state your vision. And I'm thinking of, how many of you, I'm sure both of you, you've written letters to somebody asking for something, right? And men are really good at saying, "Dear Joe, I need you to, contribute $500 to the Parent Teachers Association because you're my go-to guy," right? Women have a tendency to talk all the way around the ask, right? "Hey, how are you? I hope things are great. I've been thinking about you lately. The reason why I'm calling is," and by the time they make the ask, somebody has either become disinterested, or they've gotten confused, or a bias has been formed against the ask. So one of the things I want to put on the table is, regardless of what it is, if women, regardless of our age, are clear on their vision and they're clear on their ask, then we need to practice asking the ask, right? "Hey, I need Alexis. Are you that person who can be with me when I'm at my worst?" And you can say yes or no. And if it's not you, I can move on to someone else. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody want to comment? We got a couple minutes left before we have to take a break.
Yeah, I was just going to say, even before personal vision, though, I think part of it too is just having that awareness. Like, it really starts with being aware of what it is that you even need something. I think sometimes we wait way too long before we actually realize we need something. And then we're like, oh my gosh, now we're frustrated. We can't think clearly. And then we're too far down the road of being frustrated in our situation. So I agree. I think we definitely also need to be able to ask for it. And I think it's one of the hardest things that women are faced with, advocating for ourselves.
Alexis, you want to take us to break with any thoughts on that about advocating for ourselves?
I just encourage the people out there, women, non-binary, whoever you are, just to ask for people's numbers. Just to say, "Hey, I'm looking for new friends. Are you looking for new friends?" And people can be honest about whether they're into it or not. When I moved to New York, that's what I did. And I have curated like the most amazing friend circle. And I definitely had many situations where it didn't work out. We met for lunch and it wasn't great, but you just got to try, like, just give it a go. Who knows? That person might be there and you're not going to find them unless you ask.
Right. So what we're talking about today is we're talking about getting the outcome you want, which could be friendship or work relationships or a work-life balance. And we're talking about being happy when you do. And we're talking about steps and strategies to get there. My guests are Alicia Ayala and Alexis Moore-Eiting. We're going to take a break. Stay with us. We're going to be back with 30 more minutes of really good stuff. Welcome back in, everybody. I'm Diane McClay, your host on the Diane McClay Show, and we're always here to empower your life through choice. My guests are Alicia Ayala and my friends Alexis Moore-Eiting. Alexis is in New York City and Alicia is in Wisconsin. And we've been talking about how to get the outcome you want, especially as women, regardless of whether you're a college age woman, a young professional, or somebody in your second half of your life and you're trying to figure out where you're going and what you're doing. We're talking about creating a support system, clearly stating your vision, having faith on where you're going and understanding your why. But what I really want to do right now is I really want to celebrate Alexis a little bit. She just published a book and it's called 21, I'm going to get this wrong, 21 Steps to Survive College. Is that right? Yep, 21 strategies for thriving at college. So not just surviving, but thriving. So Alexis, jump in. Tell us a little bit about why this has been a passion for you and what you are contributing to the world with this production.
I struggled cultivating healthy romantic partnerships after college. And at first I tried coaching women in their 20s about healthy relationships. And I found that they were kind of too far gone. In a way, I'm like, you need therapy. I can't help you at this point. And I was like, I want to get people younger. I want to support women before they get to that point of developing skills that are not effective at making them feel better. Numbing skills that don't actually revive them, but make them feel worse. And just setting up some skills around confidence and building support networks and having goals and figuring out who you are as a person, identifying your values and being able to identify like, why are you at school? Are you there to make a bunch of friends, to meet everyone, to play all the sports, to try all the drugs? Like, what are you there for? And how do you stay in school if that's your goal? Like, and maybe that's a little bit much for some people to hear, but I'm also just kind of like, what are your goals? Just not judging about it, but really, what are your goals? Like, and getting to know yourself and be honest about it. So most of the books that I looked at for college were black and white and were just densely text. And I just felt like people needed more opportunity to explore. So I made a beautiful, like, fill in your own book with a bunch of worksheets.
Like a workbook.
It's a workbook. It's not a tell you what to do kind of book. Yeah.
Yeah. So to that point, what's a takeaway that if people, I don't want you to give the whole book away, but what's a takeaway that, and I think this book, even though you're targeting young women going to college, I actually feel like there's probably some applicable things that would speak to Alicia's audience and my audience as well. So pull a nugget or two out about, you mentioned your bingo sheet before about forming friendships. Tell us one thing why people need to buy the book, whether they're in college or whether they have kids in college, and what they could get out of it.
So I was talking to a friend yesterday who was just reading it, and she really loved 7 types of loneliness. So identifying what kind of loneliness you're experiencing, and then being able to soothe it based on knowing what's causing it. So there's 7 different types of loneliness. New situation loneliness. I'm different and I don't fit in. I have no sweetheart. I have no animal companion. No one has time for me, or my friendships are only skin deep. I have no real deep connections. Growing apart or feeling physically separate from your friends. And also just missing having someone around as a quiet presence. So just wanting just someone around, whether you talk to them or not. So the different kinds of loneliness. And if you can figure out which one you're experiencing, you can actually do something about it, as opposed to just trying a bunch of things and being like, I still have no sweetheart. Don't know what to do.
Which, first of all, I think that's brilliant. Like my heart feels genuinely moved. Like, I don't know that I've ever thought about the different types of loneliness there could be. As like a raging extrovert, I realize as I'm pausing that there are times in my life I have felt lonely, but I've never been able to really identify the feeling, because as a raging extrovert, typically what I do is as soon as I start feeling lonely, I just go find people and I insert myself into a situation, and then I figure it out. Right. But I don't know, honestly, that I've ever sat with the feeling of loneliness and that I've actually thought about it. So you're making my head go, what does that look like for me? Alicia?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I moved from Minneapolis to Wisconsin, the rural woods of Wisconsin, about a year and a couple months. So as soon as you said loneliness, I thought about this move and moving away from everything. I mean, I have my family, but there has been a sense of loneliness because I've left my friends, good friends that are like those people that have become my family. And so as soon as you said loneliness, I was like thinking about like, what type of loneliness have I been experiencing? And I've realized it's part of it is like, I desire a deep connection, a deeper connection in person. And like, I love my family and like I have 2 young girls and my husband is here and his family is here. And that connection is great, but it's like I'm missing my friends, like that type of a connection. And so the loneliness that I'm feeling is really like it, because I kept thinking about it. So I have been thinking about it. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, loneliness of like just missing someone to have like fun that isn't complicated by family ties or chores or someone's basic needs having to be met, right? Like just having that freedom of like, oh no,
Right.
this is just us. Free time.
Yes. Well, and I used to go out, like we would go and have dinners, right? Like I'm a foodie, like I love going and eating at different places. So like going and spending time with my girlfriends, eating and trying new restaurants, or we love to do adventures, so doing different adventures. So I've really had to think about like, I'm 2.5 hours away or like right around there. So it's not like it's super hard to kind of coordinate, okay, well, once a month, I'm going back now and trying to build that into my schedule. Like, how can I go, and have that time, that connection that I realized I was missing.
Yeah, this is tying into kind of this concept of choice, right? We can get so, especially professional women and especially professional women in college, like there's always a grind to like, if your goal is to be the best in your class and your goal is to get the degree and not just party and have a good time, then there can be a lot of extra pressure on young women going to college because of the concept of having to perform. And I would imagine, I felt it when I was in state government about always having to show, prove myself, compete with other people, do it a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit smarter than the guys, and hope that somebody acknowledges, my value and my worth. But what this is really kind of tying into for me is I'm hearing choice and I'm hearing options all over the board. What are your choices? And I said on one of my shows earlier that I think a lot of people, we get driven by either or. Oh, either I could go back to Wisconsin for my vacation time with my family, or I can stay here and try to make friends here. I personally believe that life happens between the bookends of either or. And I personally believe that our empowerment goes up when we live in that in between and we look for the options that are available to us. If you have a support system with your family in Wisconsin, one option could be is that you drive or fly home. You have a girls' weekend or a girls' week. You explain to your husband and your family, this is what you need in order to be the balanced mom and the provider back in when you come back. And as long as you have that support system, then it comes right back to what we said right after break is you have to ask for what you need and you have to ask for what you want to get the outcome that you want and to be happy with it.
Yeah, right? 100%. And I think right now a lot of the women that I'm talking to are still kind of coming off of the pandemic and being at home, having kids and not seeing their friends. And so it's actually something I'm like a couple of my clients that I was just working with when we got to this, like, what's your personal vision? Let's talk about relationships. How do your relationships look? And it's like, everything's great with my husband, with my kids, but oh my goodness, I've let my friendships go. And I did, and like, they didn't even realize it. So it kind of goes back to what Alexis was saying, like just even knowing that they were probably experiencing a sense of loneliness without really knowing, right? And then it manifests itself as being like, just unsatisfied in life, but not really knowing why, and so helping like these clients really started to realize, oh my gosh, I just need to add back in. Like one of my clients, she's just like, I'm going to meet with my friends once a month. Like, I didn't even realize that was something I was missing, And so I think, and it's been really common. I actually was just thinking about it. It's been really common with most of the women that I've been working with. And I don't know if it's just a pandemic thing, or I think it's easier for high achieving women who have kids. That's one thing that you let go. You don't maintain, thinking it's frivolous or it's unimportant, but it really is important because we all need that connection. And like you were saying, Alexis, like there are these different ways that we can find ourselves being lonely.
Well, I can also imagine, like, most of us experienced at the beginning of the pandemic this incredible sense of loss, right? Like we went through this grieving period and then we just had to forget it. We just had to like write it off in order to survive as people. We're like,
Yeah.
we can't miss it anymore. It's not happening. We got to just move on. And I would imagine it's a similar, and I'm not a mother, so I haven't experienced this, but like postpartum might be kind of similar. And this idea of like, I just can't do it right now. I can't have it right now. I have too many other things going on. And maybe even at the beginning of a relationship or a marriage or a new job where that's like asking a lot, like you just have to be like, I just can't right now. And there's a part of you that's sad, but you're also like really involved and engaged in this other thing. And you just end up pushing it away, and you push it away long enough that you don't remember that it was something you value. Like you just told yourself no, like, no, I can't have that. And so just being reminded, like just from like asking people, like, no, this is, friendships are important. Like like everyone needs them. You need them in person. You can't just have them online. Online is fine, but you also need in-person people. If you're not having in-person time, we've seen that that's not great for mental health. So like, where are your people? Like, just to remind, like, you need more than just your family. Some people are great, they're introverts, but you still need a couple other people.
Yeah. And I love my wife, but we have literally been in Denver for 7 weeks. I'm joking. At the 3rd week mark, we are now like a week longer than our longest vacation together, 24/7. Right. So we were in an apartment. Right. And that was fine for the first couple of weeks. And then it got to like when 2 of us were trying to have the phone call at the same time in 2 different rooms, and we couldn't hear what we were talking about. It was like, okay, we need a bigger space. So we've been in a vacation home, like an Airbnb for 5 weeks. Right. And all of our energy has been focused on trying to help my brother-in-law get his business open. But what I'm realizing now is things were open now. We have the occupancy certificate. Now it's like we have some time during the day, and it's like we're not even talking to each other because we've gotten so used to like she's doing this and I'm doing that, and we'll catch up at 10 o'clock at night and try to have something to eat. And it's a little weird. It's like we almost have to re-engage the relationship because for 7 weeks we've been focused on the production of everything else. That what I realize now is that there are times that we snap each other and it's like, you're snapping at me because I put the milk in the fridge, right? I mean, like, I didn't know you needed the milk. I would have left it out. Right? So it's kind of circling back to, we've been so attentive to other people and other things and producing something that we've kind of forgotten to put some energy back into ourselves and then into each other. And, we're all good, but we've got a 4-day, trip home in the car. That's going to yield some pretty interesting conversations, I think. Right.
It'll be just the thing you need.
It'll be perfect.
Yeah.
But, we're talking about like getting the outcome you want. And the summary that I would say with that story is that we just have to get back into the habit of remembering to ask or remembering to have that conversation with each other and with the people in our lives.
I also think it's just part of it is honoring how you're feeling. Cause I want to go back to something Alexis said. Sometimes we're pushing things down, and I find especially with women, it's like these feelings of frustrated or sad or lonely, like those are bad feelings. So we don't want to feel them. And we really want to, right? There's sort of this idea that you should be smiling and joyful all the time. Like those are good feelings. And so like when we have these bad feelings, we're like, no, don't feel these bad feelings. And so we push them down, but I feel like it's a bubble. Like they're going to come back up and it's going to be worse. And so I always encourage people, like, it's so important for you to feel what it is you're feeling in the moment, because those feelings are actually your barometer and they're meant for you. It's your body's way of reminding you what is actually happening within yourself. And we ignore those things, but those are actually where we need to focus. So, like, I think it's important to tune into those. And I'm like the opposite. Like, now that I've learned these things, I'm always, with my kids, with my girls, I always joke, like, what is it going to be like for them to grow up with a coach as a mom, as a parent? Because I'm always like, how are you feeling inside your body? My 7-year-old is like, Mom, if I hear that one more time. But I think it's so important, and it is something that is a skill. And the moment you can tune into yourself, it creates that awareness that you need to make a change.
Yeah. So Alexis, tag this into women that are maturing. They're moving into college. They don't have the world knowledge that you or I or Alicia have yet. How do you translate this to young women who are they're moving away? Everything about their world is completely new. So translate what Alicia was saying about recognizing your feelings, your barometer. How do you coach somebody if they don't even have a starting point yet? Or if their feelings have been embedded in a place of negativity and negative self-image for a long time?
Right. So part of it is just encouraging people to pause, right? And do a little temperature check. Like, what are you thinking? What is your internal dialogue? Is it positive? Is it negative? What is it saying to you? So we talk about internal, like, narrative, and also coming up with your own narrative voice, which is kind of like further along, but just how do you talk to yourself? Kind of identifying, and I know not everyone talks to themselves in their head. Some people are more visual, but knowing that you can talk to yourself, because you can talk to yourself, whether that's out loud or quiet or just inside your head. But coming up with, how do you want to be spoken to, and how do you want to interact with yourself? What's a way that allows you to open up? Are you the one who you want your internal voice to be a little more coach like and a little more go get them, or do you need grandma's, like, okay, Lexi dear, what do you need today? Like, we don't need to think about that right now, hun, let's move on. Or is it like, thank you, enough, no more talking about that? Like, what voice do you need to be able to communicate with yourself and actually figure out what is going on? So just talking about meditation and breathing, and whether that's walking around the block or walking around your dorm, or even just doing a body scan. So talking, like, if people aren't into exercise, figuring out, like, talking through a body scan and recommending YouTubes, and just getting people to check in with what's going on in your body. Because for some people it's really scary. And then if you need, encouraging people to get some professional support around that too, if it is really scary, because some of those feelings, if you've been squashing them down, are too big to deal with on your own. And I think that's important to acknowledge, that you don't have to deal with all those feelings on your own, that there's support. And especially on college campuses, there are, counselors and mental health support people and RAs, if you don't want to get into the mental health field, or just advisors if it's something doesn't feel that serious, but it's something, there's people, and just helping people identify who you can talk to about big feelings, because you don't have to deal with them on your own. And if they're overwhelming, which I think a lot of times they are, like, again, find that support network with who to talk to about it.
Well, and I want to do a quick plug for both of you. Alexis this is a great niche for her, because she's been in the place of a lot of young college freshmen where they might have been unsure, they might have been uncertain, they might have had bad relationships in high school. But what's really great about Alexis, and if you could tell people how to get a hold of you and how they could coach with you, that'd be great. But she's not your parent. She's not your RA, so she's not going to be all up in your business, every single day. Like, you can get a hold of Alexis or Alicia at different times, and you can structure a different type of an online support system without it having be directly in your immediate world, which, if you're a young person, that might be awkward too, right? How come I'm in the RA's room every single day, right? People are going to start talking about me if I'm either sucking up to the RA, or, I've got a problem. So Alexis, tell people how people can get a hold of you and what type of work you do. And then Alicia will make sure you hit that as well.
People can get a hold of me on my website, theconfidencesociety.com, theconfidencesociety.com. I do one-on-one coaching with young women. Occasionally I work with parents if they are really excited about working with me, but mostly I work with young women, non-binary folk too, young people. And then I also have some online, and I'm going to host some in-person workshops for incoming freshmen and college students to not work through the book 21 Strategies for Thriving at College, but use some of the pieces of it to kind of support some people live to make some connections. So I'll be offering some of those series in the new year. And that's what I'm up to these days.
And you have an Instagram account, The Confidence Society?
Confidence SOC.
Confidence SOC is Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And Alicia, how can people connect with you and work with you? Just want to make sure we get that in there.
Yeah, so my website, aliciaayala.com, has all of my information on it. I am primarily social platform wise. I'm primarily on LinkedIn, and I work with people primarily corporate women, corporate mom leaders who are looking to create more time balance and ease, because I do believe you can have both. You can have a thriving career and you can have a personal life that you actually love. And I don't believe you have to sacrifice, and you can't have both. It does take awareness and it takes some personal visioning, but you can have that. And so one-on-one coaching, I also do group coaching, which I'll relaunch my next group coaching program in December. And then, that's how you can get a hold of me. And that's what I'm working on.
Yeah. And I just want to say thank you to both of you guys. We still have some time left, but really connecting people in my world. I've been absent from part of my business world for the last 3 or 4 months. One, it was summer, it was playtime, and 2, the business was happening. But I get really excited when I connect powerful women who really are committed and passionate about changing the lives of the people they work with. And that's why I'm excited you two got to meet each other. So just thank you. Thank you for what you're doing, because you each have a very independent niche. And it's important to know that everybody out there deserves to be served and deserve to be recognized. Alexis, I want to also say thank you for bringing up the non-binary, because that's a thing, right? And I'm not a parent. I have a friend who's got a daughter who was born as a female and now identifies as a male, and that's a struggle. That's the mom's very supportive and trying to understand the languaging and the emotional stuff that's going through with that young person, but it's completely new and it's completely different for everybody. So thank you for just calling that out there and putting a name to an underserved population out there. So with that, we got a couple minutes left. Somebody want to take over with last parting words for our audience today? Alicia, Alexa, I'll just leave it up to you to kind of close us out if you want.
Yeah, so I just want to say, no matter where you are at and no matter what, what you're experiencing, I know so many people right now are experiencing some amount of stress, some amount of struggle in the world. There's so much happening, and I think all of us actually can feel it. And so I just want to encourage you that wherever you are, I promise you don't have to do it alone. And there are resources, there are people, if not me, if not Alexis, if not Diane, there are people out there. So there are so many good people trying to put good things out into the world and serve. And so I just encourage you to find the people that can help you, because you don't have to live your life where you are at. There is always choice, using Diane's words. And there are always options. And so I encourage you to find what you need for yourself. And if you resonate with me and it makes sense, reach out. I'm happy to help.
Alexis, take us home.
I love it. I want to guide you two and all of our listeners just on a breath cycle and a shoulder check-in, right? Because we talked about that. So I just want you to take a moment to take a breath in And I want you to hold it for a minute. And then let it out through your mouth. And I want your shoulders to come up to your ears on the next breath. Ready? Shoulders up to your ears. And you're going to hold them up there for a minute. And then as you sigh, you're going to let them float down, float. Yeah. Just a little check-in.
I like the pause.
You gotta pause. You gotta pause.
pause.
And if that was something you didn't want to do and you're listening, just check in about that too. That's perfectly acceptable, but just note that that's where you're at. And what do you need to feel okay taking a breath?
And it's Friday, so everybody should be able to take a much bigger breath than they typically do on Monday. I am Diane McClay. This is the Diane McClay Show. You made a choice to tune in. We want to say thank you to that. We're always here to empower your life through choice. And with that, be kind, take care of each other, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Diane McClay Show, where you are empowered to enact change in your life through choice. You know that little voice in your head that's been telling you to pursue that passion project? Or maybe it's been screaming for you to go outside and explore the great outdoors. That voice is you, and you deserve to be heard. Listen, make a choice, make a change, and watch yourself grow. For more information about Diane or to work with her personally, visit dianemcclay.com.